going with another Metrano. Please welcome Mandy Metrano.
Thank you. I'm going to use this. I tend to rewrite everything the day of.
Yeah.
That's my go-to so far. So, by the very nature of biology, middle school is an awkward time. It may have been particularly awkward for me because there was a serious disconnect between the kid brain that I had housed inside a very different looking body. I went from being one of the boys to something else very quickly. It was like one of those body swap movies. I was living the real life version of Big, but without the FAO Schwartz big piano. I had 3 older brothers, played baseball, flag football. I watched WWF and Kung Fu theater. I'm aging myself here, I know. Then at the end of 6th grade, my boobs popped. Seemingly overnight, the flat plank of my body had 2 ripe melons nailed to the front of it. I was a C cup by the end of the year and a D cup by the beginning of 7th grade. Trust me, everyone noticed. Here are a couple of comments I got. So I was the only girl on my baseball team in 6th grade, and I was used to the generic heckling when I was up to bat. But after my tatas arrived, it got a lot more specific. After a game, a kid on the other team walked up to me and said, "Oh, hey, I just wanted to check to see if you'd gotten 2 black eyes out there." I was confused since I hadn't been hit by a ball. And I said, no, why would I have 2 black eyes? From your boobs smacking you in the face when you run. Oh yeah. Another time, I was in 7th grade, and a high school upperclassman leaned over to me. "Hey, I like your outfit." Again, I was confused. I was wearing an oversized t-shirt and cutoff jeans, nothing of note. But I was flattered to be noticed. "Thank you, oh my gosh, thanks." And then he said, "I'd like it a lot better, crumpled up in a pile in the corner of my bedroom." Oh yes. Where did these kids come from? And how are they so savvy? They must have had cable. During these formative years, I lived in a very rural community. And I don't know if anyone here grew up in a rural community. Maybe it sounds like someone did. But when the population is so small, people considered to be in your age group can span a decade. So I was at parties in the woods when I was 12 with people that were old enough to buy beer. Nikki was 3 years older than me, and she seemed to know everything I didn't. Remember, this is the 80s. You probably figured that out by now. The internet didn't exist yet. There was no Googling, what is a butt plug? Cable wasn't even available where I lived. We relied entirely on older siblings and network TV, neither of which were very reliable. I didn't have an older sister, so Nikki was my stand-in. And she treated me like any other older sibling would. She liked having me around as entertainment, but she also liked me to be the butt of the joke. I think Nikki saw me as kind of a pet. I followed her around and did what she said. And like my older brothers, she took advantage of my naivete to get a laugh. She once told me to crack raw eggs into my hair and rinse it out to make it shiny, which is a thing. Except she told me I needed to use really hot water to rinse it out. I can tell you, scrambled eggs is a bitch to get out of long, thick hair. Yeah. So I was definitely the youngest and the most naive in Nikki's group of friends. Anyone who spent any time with me would have figured that out. But here I was with these big boobs just leading the way and making their first impressions everywhere I went. So I'm 13 at a party by a lake, surrounded by woods, and a bunch of us kids are there. We're drinking beer, sitting around a fire on the beach. Picture the opening scene of every slasher movie from the 80s. Kids slowly start pairing off and disappearing. Nikki walks off with this guy she had a crush on, so I'm left sitting on a log with the guy's friend. He's a 20-year-old dwarf named Peanut. He's a nice enough guy, we're chatting, but then he tells me he's a professional boxer. And I think, huh. I start picturing what that means. Is there a dwarf boxing circuit? Or does he box average-sized men? And how does that work? So all of you probably see where this is going, but 13-year-old Mandy didn't. So while I'm distracted running through the imagery of these various boxing scenarios, Peanut leans in to kiss me. I jump up and I yell, "Peanut!" And I run into the woods. It felt much safer out there. I just never saw it coming. I was still so incredibly naive, especially about sex. But my boobs seemed to have the power to mesmerize and confuse anyone in their presence. Boys, girls, teachers, strangers, all seemed to think they needed to speak directly to them. I was 5'3", 100 pounds with a D cup, but I wore extra large men's shirts, thinking that somehow I could just disappear inside them. Little did I know, I just needed to wait 30 years to become invisible. Aww. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. The summer after 7th grade, I'm staying at Nikki's house. Nikki, come in here. I just want to make sure this is what I think it is. She joins me to look into the toilet. Her eyes get huge. Oh my God, we need to call a doctor. My heart stops. Shit, I knew it, I'm dying, aren't I? Oh my God, shit, I knew it, this isn't right. She lets me freak out like this for a solid minute, and then she slaps my arm. I'm just fucking with you. That's what your period looks like, dummy. She pulls a tampon from a drawer in the bathroom and says, "Here, stick this up your vag." I'm looking at this crinkly plastic tube in my hand that looks several inches too long. Will it hurt? It shouldn't. Can I just wear a pad? No. Pads are for old people. You cannot wear a pad. Everyone will see it through your pants and make fun of you. You cannot wear a pad. She walks out, and I sit on the toilet for another 5 minutes, reading the side of the tampon box. All of the women in here have done this, and some of the men probably have too. It basically tells you that you're going to die from toxic shock syndrome if you put this in your body. But I can't wear a pad? Who made these rules? So, as a stupid middle schooler, when given the choice between potential death or embarrassment, of course I choose death. Embarrassment feels a lot worse at that age, so I take the plunge. A couple months later, Nikki and I are in the lake. We're treading water with our heads bobbing above the surface. And I get up the courage to ask her about this thing I keep hearing about. I know it's something sexual, but I haven't been able to piece together much more. The Wonder Years and The Cosby Show have not covered the topic. Nikki, what's a blowjob? She laughs and says, "It sounds gross, but it's really not that bad. It's when you stick a guy's dick in your mouth and you suck on it." It's a little more nuanced. Okay, Nikki. I'm not falling for it this time. No one would do that. That's where their pee comes out. It wasn't until I corroborated the story with 2 outside sources that I finally believed it was true. In my research, I also learned how how a blowjob comes to its natural conclusion? In your fucking mouth? And wait a minute, you're supposed to swallow? No. In my opinion, this is the perfect abstinence campaign. I was scared off boys for years, truly. The Christian abstinence crusaders could learn a thing or two from the Nickies of the world. Speaking in euphemisms or avoiding talking about sex at all is not the answer. Just tell it like it is. I was far less afraid of going to hell than having a mouthful of teen peen. It kind of makes you think a little differently about the term coming of age, doesn't it? That's my time.
Mandy Metrano, everyone. I love this. That's a blowjob. Like, so good.